1, 2, 3.
Hello, welcome to Rock the Cash Bar. I'm Ben Mowbray.
And I'm Dianne Gallagher.
Every week we pick one song and do a deep dive into the lyrics and explain the different ways they've been interpreted.
We will also discuss how the song connected to us on a personal level, focusing on all the embarrassing details.
Glad to have you here. Enjoy the show. Good evening, good afternoon, good morning, good car trip, good running errands. What are you doing? What are you listening to? Why are you listening to us? We're glad to have you. Welcome to Rock the Cash Bar, episode 25. How are you, Dianne?
I'm good. I'm chill. I'm bored. I'm so bored. But happy to be here doing something.
You have to let boredom become a comfort. Like boredom's got to become like a warm blanket or a cool swimming pool or something. You just have to steady your mind somehow and just go, yeah, we're going back into this. The last 4 months are going to be the next 4 months. Like we're headed in that direction. That's where we're going.
At least I'm not going in blind. I know what to expect this time. I'm a seasoned soldier in it now.
I kind of turned a weird corner a couple of days ago. I went to the grocery store and I stocked up on everything that we'll need, not if we get it, but when we get it.
Oh God, what'd you get?
Chicken soup, a whole bunch of Gatorade, cold and flu medication. It just occurred to me, just like the numbers are getting so bad that you're almost flat guaranteed to have it. And, you know, I'm quarantined with my sister and my girlfriend. And all I could think about is just like, well, one day one of us is going to wake up. We're going to have the undeniable symptoms of COVID-19 because, you know, I know about a dozen people who have gone through it already. So, you know, like I've seen their Facebook posts. I've seen everything that they posted, like how it just more or less immediately sets on you. And then, you know, you've got a miserable 10 days, a week if you're lucky, 14 days, really kind of at the most. So all I could think about was just like, well, all three of us are going to get it at the same time. As soon as we do, we need to make sure that we have everything that we need to keep ourselves creature comfortable when we do. It was miserable. I felt like a doomsday prepper.
That's all right. That's smart. I'm just still like, I'm not going to see anybody. I'm just not going to let it happen. And then, you know, I have health anxiety. So if the idea of me just facing the fact of us getting it and then reading about, the autopsies of people who had it and there's blood clots in every organ. I'm like, I can't hear that. I can't know that. Yeah. I can't do this.
It's such a nightmare. I don't even want to think about it, but it's also the only thing I can think about.
I know.
My mind is just a gross hamster wheel. I don't like any of this at all. I don't like it. That's the thing. Like every single one of us wants to go back. Like we want to go back to normal. We want to get back to some sort. We want to start living our lives, making money again, but you can't do it. It's not. I hate it when they say, like when I see people say things like they took your graduation away or they put a stop to this. Like it wasn't it's a natural system. It's a hurricane. This is an earthquake. This is a forest fire.
Right.
Put your fucking mask on.
I saw a great tweet. It went viral. The girl's like, I've been wearing a bra with an underwire since I was 12. Wear your fucking mask. I wish I knew her name. This is not my joke. If you know her name, great. It's gone viral, but it was great. I'm like, yes, go fuck yourself. Wear your mask.
I was trying to come up with a joke where the basic point is like, look, this culture is literally going to collapse because men don't listen. I didn't know how to get to it. Like if I was a woman, I wouldn't be so surprised by this. Like, yes, of course, culture is going to collapse because guys like me don't listen.
Sorry. Should we get into some music? Bring some joy. Some depressing joy.
Yep. This is the wrong episode if you're looking for joy.
Let's wallow then. Let's wallow. I'm down to wallow.
I'm down for that. Let's do it. What are we doing today? Today, we're doing Saint Kurt. We're doing Nirvana. Patreon subscribers voted on it, and we are doing all apologies today. This is the Kurt Cobain funeral dirge. It's impossible to think about this song, specifically this song, but really all of Nirvana's music without thinking about Kurt's death and Kurt's suicide. Like you can't separate it. Like it's just there. It's in all of our heads. Do you remember, like, this is I have a specific memory of being in my junior high school hallway and hearing two kids talking to each other. A friend of mine, Jared Murray, if you're listening, you're probably not. I haven't heard from you in 30 years. But I remember him because he had like cool older brothers and a cool older sister who were like they were into Billy Idol in like the late 80s and that kind of stuff. Like he was like sort of this pipeline guy. Like he found the cool stuff because he had the cool siblings who were finding it for him. And I remember him specifically telling another kid, just like, if you want to listen to something cool, you need to get into Nirvana because they're going to be really, really cool in about a couple of months. And that had to, like, from the little bit of research that I did, like, Nevermind came out in the fall of 91. So this probably had to be like the winter of 92 when I was in seventh grade. And that was like already, I was 12 years old. Like that was kind of already the metric that had been assigned to Nirvana. Like if you want to be cool, you got to listen to Nirvana. That was literally the first time I ever heard of them.
Yeah. There's a similar story that Corbin knows by heart. I don't know it, but the lead singer of Green Day, they were touring in Europe, and his girlfriend back in the States sent him Smells Like Teen Spirit that was going, apeshit in America. And she's like, you need to listen to this right now. And it was Smells Like Teen Spirit was such a like sharp pivot in everything that happened in the 90s. Yeah.
And maybe it's because I'm older and I'm out of touch now, but it's hard for me to think of another artist in the last, so it's been almost 30 years. Like it's hard for me to think of anybody who's had that kind of impact. I probably am missing. Like I remember bringing this up to somebody a couple of years ago. There's like, well, Ben, how about hip hop? I'm like, yeah, you're right. I guess you're right.
Well, that was before. Hip hop was before. Like, and grunge was around. He didn't invent grunge, but it threw it in your grandma's eyes. I mean, it threw the dirt in everyone's eyes. I mean, it was huge.
Mm-hmm. And it was at least for me, it was the first time that that rock stars looked like me. You know, ripped jeans, Doc Marten boots, long, scraggly, unwashed hair, weird, dumb beards. I didn't have a weird, dumb beard when I was 11.
You wanted to, though.
I sure did.
Yeah.
Oh, did I ever? But yeah, it's strange. Like I would like to talk to a younger person and like ask them like what's your musical revolution? Like what's the thing that kind of knocked everything else off the table? Like I remember in the months after hearing that comment that first brought me to Nirvana, we'd be sitting in like the art classroom where you could listen to music, and we would literally argue about like what we were going to be listening to. And it was Warrant's Cherry Pie versus Nirvana's Nevermind. Would always seemed to be like that was the crux that it came down to.
That's so weird.
I know. It couldn't be like any more stark. I remember even that, like these two things just don't jive. Like there's no, like Guns N' Roses was really big just a couple of years before, but like Slash with his big top hat and all the studs and the leather and everything like that. And, his bare sleeves and everything. Like it was just like, he's in costume. He's obviously in costume. Nirvana was the first time I remember looking at a band and thinking these guys aren't dressing up for anybody.
Yeah, no.
They're not putting on a stage play.
Yeah, it was great. They walked right out of their garage onto stage, and he didn't even put a comb in his hair. It was wonderful.
That's probably the last time that it'll happen. I think we talked about it a little bit with Pearl Jam as well. But how much good music do you think we're missing out on because record companies and the music industry don't want to deal with the kids who are that green, where they're literally sitting on their futon, like playing the guitar and writing this great vital music that's going to speak to all the other kids who are doing the same thing. But they haven't had that polish. They haven't had the time on the road, or they haven't had that time in the studio to really learn how to do it. Like, I think what happened with Kurt and Nirvana must have been like it's hard to take the record industry angle of it, but it must have been so aggravating for those record company executives. Just like, you're perfect. You do this so incredibly well. We're giving you the life that you want to have. Take the money. Like, just take it. Like, we're giving it to you. Go ahead and enjoy it. Like, don't.
Right.
It's got to be really, because there must be musicians right now who are going through that phase where they're 17, 18 or something like that. They're living in their first all bills paid apartments, and they've got a great band together, and they'll never get their shot.
Yeah.
I think because the doors slammed shut sort of after Nirvana. Like, we're never doing that again. Forget. We only want the showbots, you know, like we want the guys who are ready to sing and dance and look good.
Well, we got rid of the idea of you don't have to be super attractive to be famous, which unfortunately Kurt Cobain was still really hot. But, you know, the overall like unwashed grunge look, that was like earlier 90s. And then, why is my mic doing that sound? Hold on. In the later 90s, boy bands came back, and Britney Spears and Spice Girls and everything got pretty again, and you had to be pretty to be on TV. And it's, you know, the ebb and the flow of music. You know, the 80s was like so much makeup, so much hairspray, so much glam. And then the pendulum has to swing back the other way hard. It's like, well, here comes grunge. And then it just swung back like, no, let's get pretty again. And then it swung again to hipsters, like wearing really ridiculous clothing. Where I'm like, well, okay. Ironic is annoying, but okay.
Irony is always in. Shall we do the lyrics? We kind of got ahead of ourselves a little bit there. Let's do the lyrics. It's a very, very short song. These lyrics, I think, are more or less like burned into our bones at this point. So we'll try to make it quick. I'll try not to get too English majory and stuffy about it, but who knows? All apologies, lyrics by Kurt Cobain. What else should I be? All apologies. What else should I say? Everyone is gay. That's a kind of a weird, this is 1993. Like we're not, it was a different world. Like it's hard to think of how far gay rights, queer rights, gender queer, gender binary, these are all things that have worked their way into our vocabulary, and rightly so. But back in 93, that was kind of a jarring line. Right. And the more, the only thing that I can think about is like, this is Kurt Cobain pushing his audience away. Like, this is a guy who rode to fame like really, really quickly. Like, we're going to be talking about that for sure. Like, I think this is him just trying to burn off that excess audience. Like, he's looking at just like, I don't want to play a 50,000 seat stadium. I'd much rather play a 5,000 seat theater, or even better, a 500 person club. I need to get rid of these people. The Hattie McBackwards crowd, as they came to be known. Thank you, David Tell, for the but that's kind of how it's defined. Like this is, I mean, The Cure has jumped in somebody else's train, but I think that's absolutely the saga of Nirvana. That's how we all learned it. Is just think there's too many people. Kurt Cobain's thinking to himself, like, I'm performing for too many people that I don't even want to talk to.
Right. And I remember seeing in the research, there was a Christian rock band, DC Talk or something like that would cover this song. And at that line, they would, instead of everyone is gay, they would say Jesus is the way. Where I'm like, how about you just don't cover this song? Okay. This isn't yours.
Yeah. But stop trying to take it. We'll get to it. Like, I have a lot of kind of complicated feelings about this, and I'm not sure going to come across right, but who cares? Right. What else should I write? I don't have the right. What else should I be? All apologies. In the sun, I feel as one. In the sun, married, buried. I wish I was like you, easily amused. That line really fucked with my teenage arrogance. Like, it's just such because it's such it's a really snotty thing to say and to think and to feel, but I felt it right into my blood when I was a kid. Like I remember feeling kind of, because every teenager feels that way, where you feel left out, you feel rejected, you feel like you don't belong to the groups that you want to belong with, or nobody's laughing at your jokes, or you feel misunderstood. And like, this just seemed like the perfect way to fit those pieces of your brain back together. I wish I was like you, easily amused.
Right.
Like, I wouldn't be having these problems if I were as dumb as you.
Yeah, as dumb and happy as you. I'm brooding and intellectual and deep.
Yeah, it's not a healthy thought. It doesn't lead to anywhere good. But it's a sincere thought.
Yep.
Then he gets weird. Find my nest of salt. Everything's my fault. I'll take all the blame. Aqua sea foam shame.
Never knew what he was saying there.
Didn't either. As I was going through it, I found a lot of like Nirvana message boards and things where people are doing exactly this, where they're going through Nirvana songs line by line and talking about how they feel and what it means. And I read a couple of different people who were saying that they'd always heard, and I think this is the way that I took it too, is I'll take all the blame. I'll take all the blame. I'll proceed from shame.
Yeah.
Which kind of made sense. Like when I was a kid, I would think like all proceeds from shame was one of the ways that I interpret it. And I thought that was him like giving the finger to the record company again, like, I'll take the money if you're making profit off of my shame. But I do think that's a little bit better. Like, I'll take all the blame. I'll proceed from shame. Like this is one of those things that I both love and hate, where it feels to me like a lyricist is just filling in the syllables and the beats with whatever comes to mind. And Aqua sea foam shame is a fine bit of lyrical imagery. I'm fine with it. Sunburn, freezer burn, choking on the ashes of her enemy.
Choking on the ashes of... Yeah, it's... That whole section, I'm like... What? I remember trying so hard earlier to try to make sense of it, like by my nest of salt, where I think about salt water, sand and salt. And then he says aqua sea foam shame. And I was like, is this him moving away from, gloomy Aberdeen, Washington to sunny California? He made his nest in the sea and sand and salt.
Oh, yeah. I hadn't thought of that. Yeah.
Like
find my nest.
Yeah, like he lived this depressing life in Seattle, and like, does he have some kind of weird guilt about being successful and living in sunny California?
It really probably does. Yeah.
Yeah.
The only thing that I could think of with these two lines is that, like, first of all, my real gut instinct, what I honestly think is he's filling it in. I assume when you're writing a song, you don't have the lyrics all ready to go. You don't have the intent. You don't have the theme or anything like that. You've just found a good sound and a good melody, and you need to pursue it. So you just stick in whatever words that you do, whatever words you come up with. I think that's honestly what he did there. The only thing that I could think of is that maybe this is drug fantasy.
Yeah, there's a lot of that too. We have to remember he's highly creative. Emphasis on high. I mean, there's creative and there's high, and then you just get creative with your words.
And off you go. I like aqua sea foam shame quite a bit. And of course, like I'll take all the blame. That's like this whole album. It's been argued that they make the argument that In Utero was kind of like U2 and Octone Baby. Octone Baby is the sound of four men trying to chop down the Joshua tree. Right. In Utero is these three guys trying to tear down Nevermind, only in a much more extreme situation where these guys are so much younger. They've rocketed to fame so quickly, and now they're burdened with being the voice of a generation, or speaking for all these kids that they haven't met, and in a lot of cases don't even really like.
Right. Yeah.
Like it's a really difficult thing to do. And then it goes into back to the song. It says, in the sun, I feel as one. In the sun, married, buried, and then the coda, all in all is all we are. Breaking that up, I think the lines in the sun, I feel as one. I think this is his happy song. Like he's said it, later on that he wrote this song before he got married to Courtney Love and before Frances Bean was born. But nevertheless, he dedicates it to them because he feels like the feeling that the song creates is the feeling that he wants to share with them. He says like it's just peaceful. Like he says, it's just happy. It's just peaceful, happy, comfort, just happiness. There's a long quote where he says that the words of the lyrics of this song don't match up to his relationship with his family, but the mood does.
Right.
And I could see that. And I think that's like, even before he was married, before he had his kid, I think writing a line like in the sun I feel is one in the sun. Like that's what he's trying to express. Like, I want to write a happy one this time.
Yeah.
I want to write an angry one.
What I feel about this, people think about this song alongside his death, because, he died so soon after this. And, try to imagine breaking down the song had he never died. And the way I see it, it's all apologies, almost apologizing for being happy. Where he's like, I'm sorry. Like everyone almost wants him to be this depressed Seattle Kurt Cobain, who always used to have like these bad stomach issues that made him depressed and upset. But then he went to a doctor and got cured of it. And it's almost like he's apologizing for like, I'm sorry, I'm going to be happy now. Like, at least in this song.
Yeah. Or like, I'm sorry, I'm not the guy you thought I was. I've lived with Kurt Cobain since I was 11 years old, but I never met him. And like, I don't know him. I feel like I do. We all feel like we do, but we don't. Like if I met him, like he would be completely different. And that's probably like, you'd feel fucking weird. Like, I'm sorry, man. I'm not the person you think I am.
Yeah. You're a stranger to me.
I'm somebody else altogether.
All in all is all we are. It's like he's saying, like, I can't make any excuses. I mean, all in all, this is who I am at my core. I'm this person now.
What's your first memory of Nirvana? Do you remember?
I'm trying to piece it together because it's so long ago. It's almost like a dream. And I have this one memory. I was in 7th grade in my computer class, like learning how to type. And I feel like, I'm like, that's not when I heard of Nirvana. Surely that, I don't think the years match up. And I think that's where I was when I found out he died. I think I was in that because for some reason, when I think about Nirvana and I think about his death, I think about that 7th grade computer class. I'm like, why do I think of that? And I think that's when he died. So I don't remember where I was when I first heard them. It's somewhere in junior high though.
Yeah. I don't remember either. Like I do remember that the first conversation where I'd heard their name. I don't remember when I actually first heard the song. Like it must have been on MTV because we were stealing it via pirate satellite by that time. And,
yeah.
Like I remember, I think this is why people our age and like MTV is not meant for 40-year-old people. It's not meant for 30-year-old people. It's not even meant for 20-year-old people. It's meant for teenagers. Like that's how it's geared. And I remember when Smells Like Teen Spirit was on MTV all the time, I wanted it to be on MTV all the time.
Oh yeah.
Like we make fun of MTV for either not playing music or only playing the same 3 or 4 videos over and over again. Well, when you're 11 or 12, that's what you want.
Yep. You'd race home from school to see it.
Mm-hmm. It's like Baby Shark. Like, play it one more time.
Yeah.
Like it's on every 15 minutes. That's not enough. Like I just want Smells Like Teen Spirit in a loop.
Mm-hmm.
God, I love that song. I absolutely love that song.
I played it again the other day and tried to think about hearing it for the first time and watched the video. And I was like, it's just a perfect song. And the video is perfect. Like watching it's like, the whole setup in the school. We're just going to end up talking about the song anyway. I knew it. Just my favorite part was watching the cheerleaders go from like, kind of like these doldrum, very depressed cheerleaders to like becoming these like almost like ecstasy, slutty cheerleaders. And then the whole school just going ape shit into a mosh pit. And when you're a teenager and you're watching that, you're like, what a dream come true situation.
Yeah. Like I'm a little bit younger than you, but like it's hard for me to tell when I go start like thinking about these like formative musical experiences, like to separate like what actually to my life naturally and what was foisted on me by the music I was listening to. Like I don't know if I started to pull back and want to be on the outside because I saw the video for Smells Like Teen Spirit. Like, okay, I'm not supposed to be into the cheerleaders. I'm not supposed to be on the football team. We're not supposed to like pep rallies. Like Kurt Cobain told me not to.
Yeah.
It's weird when you think about like for all of the internet and the cell phones and smartphones and all the books we've written and plays we've done, like really maybe the best way to communicate a whole idea multi-generationally is just like three guys with guitars playing it loud. Like it's really the best way to do it.
I know.
Like you can, it's crazy to think about that. Like everything that we know intellectually, everything that we can learn and understand, like just kind of goes out the window when you got a great 3-chord progression.
Yeah. Keep it simple, stupid, and rock your face off.
Can I ask you an important question?
I'm ready. Yes.
Did Courtney kill him?
So, I live with a man who won't take any answer than absolutely yes. I've watched the documentaries. I've listened to all the sides. And I think it's very possible that she had a say in it. But I love playing with the conspiracy theory that he's faked his own death.
See, this is why Corbin and I never got married. I absolutely don't think so. Like I've watched the conspiracy documentaries. I watched like the Nick Broomfield one, and then the Tom Grant, the private investigator, the one that's soaked in bleach, right?
Yeah,
that's the other amazing. Yeah, that's the amazing thing about like all of Kurt Cobain. Like just about every sentence he wrote seems like it could be the title of his like rock biopic or a document, like soaked in bleach.
Right.
Come as you are. Here now, entertain us. Like every line that dropped out of his mouth was just like a perfect movie title or novel title. Like he's an incredibly good writer. All apologies. Everyone is gay. All of those things could be Kurt Cobain biopics. I don't think he committed. I don't think he was murdered.
So what's your theory?
Because the arc of it.
Did he just blew his brains out?
I think you got to take. Yeah. I think you got to take the guy at his word, and you got to look at his life. Like we all know the dramatic steps of Kurt Cobain's life. His parents divorced when he's a kid. He discovers rock and roll and playing music, and that's really the only thing that he loves. Everything else around it, he doesn't really like all that much. Talking to people, collaborating with people, these aren't things he's good at. But he's good at writing songs. He's good at writing melodies. He's good at playing the guitar. So I think he just gradually just like becomes. Paranoid is the word that people always put on him, but I don't think that that's really the word so much as just like he loses control pretty quickly of his own image. Like we forget, like he's 27 in 1994 when he dies. So that means that when we all met him in 1991, he's 23 years old. Like he's just a kid. Like there's just not, and it's hard. Like you watch these documentaries, like it's hard to see a 23-year-old kid, isn't it? Because I grew up with a poster of Kurt Cobain on my wall. I grew up with like his face was on all of my friends' chests. Like it's just a thing. Like I look at him now at 40, and I see like I guess how old would he be? Like 52 or 53-year-old Kurt Cobain. Like I just add the years to his face when I see it. I can't see the kid. It's freaking bizarre.
That is weird.
I don't know how to explain it. Like I watched 3 or 4 Nirvana documentaries this week, and I just could not see a 25 or 27-year-old man. I only saw a guy that I still look up to, even though I know he's been gone for 27 years.
In one of the documentaries, he talked about wanting to explore different types of music and just getting a guitar and basically being like a folk singer. And I wonder if he had, kind of gotten through his demons and done that, if that's where he would be right now.
Yeah, I think for sure he would be. I think he would have retreated. I think he was well on his way. Like it's been In Utero is straight, like the opening lines of In Utero are famously like something along the lines of teenage angst has paid off well, right? So he's introducing himself as like, I've made a whole lot of money off of this, and now I'm going to kick it over. like this is my plan to tear myself down. Like I want to get back into those smaller venues. And could you imagine? Like it's when I think about this guy's life and how quickly everything happened, and like how he went through. He had a couple of years where Nirvana's on the road and its various iterations with various different drummers. He's got to be traveling around the country and meeting like other musicians, other guys who are, sort of on that journey. And as that like egos rub up against each other, right? Just like, oh, you think you're going to be the next John Lennon. Like you really think that you can be the next Axl Rose or all of these, titans of industry. And there must be like friction there. And then the whole thought behind it, like he must be talking to bartenders and door guys and roadies and soundboard operators. And they must all be saying that like everything on MTV is terrible. It's awful. Like what the music that they're pitching us isn't the music that we really want to listen to. It's not raw. It's not authentic. It's not what you guys are doing on stage tonight. And then all of a sudden, like through that very avenue that he must have been like hating on, he launches to great success. Part of that's based on his classic chin, his bright blue eyes, his blonde-haired good looks, right?
Right.
He must have been super embarrassed. Not just because rock journalists are, and then many years later, people like you and me are completely misinterpreting everything that he's said or everything that he was about. He must also be thinking about, that club that I played in Wisconsin, that guy that I talked to must think I'm a real asshole right now. Like I told him that I hated MTV. I told him that I wanted to be underground forever, or and then all of a sudden you're kicking Michael Jackson out of the number 1 spot with never mind.
Yeah, I think embarrassing is the right word, and like the pressure and the confusion of like, what the fuck do I do with this? I think the same thing when, and Corbin brings this up a lot about Rage Against the Machine. There's a lot of like, fuck the police and stuff. And then they get so big that they have to have police escorts everywhere they go. You got to hang it up, dude.
This is kind of awkward.
Mm-hmm.
Like, have you actually listened to our album? It's troubling.
You're like, thank you for your service, sir.
But I wonder, when did Kurt and Courtney meet? It must have been before Nevermind, right? I know they got married after Nevermind, but they must have. Must have known each other at some point.
Yeah, because she had her little grunge band, and I think they had to have crossed ways before that. That's one thing I did not do in the research of this song is go back to the Kurt and Courtney saga, how it began.
What do you think about the married, buried kind of? I'm going to use the word coda, even if it's not the right word. But in all apologies, when he says married, buried,
I don't know if they are in relation to each other, like he feels buried in his marriage, or if married is one thing that's happening in his life, and then buried is like where he feels like mentally in the music industry and, his fame. Like it could go both ways to me. I really don't know.
I think he felt like a sort of a prisoner to those responsibilities. Like here he is. I think and again, I'm reiterating, I don't think Courtney killed him at all. Like I 100% don't think that he committed suicide. That's what's going on in my brain. But I do think that Courtney was more ambitious and more knowledgeable about the way the world really works than Kurt was. I think Courtney had tried to be a musician in her own right and saw that it's just harder to be successful in kind of rock or in any kind of entertainment, any kind of entertainment avenue. So I think she latched on to a guy like Kurt, who is obviously this really talented, incredibly vulnerable songwriter who's on a rocket ship to success, and she sees that as her opportunity to piggyback on it.
Yeah, I definitely think that.
Like a lot's been made about her. She auditioned for the role of Nancy in Sid and Nancy.
Right.
She auditioned for it, but how do you? Like, I don't mean to paint her as if she's as if she's manipulative, although I think she probably was. And I don't mean to paint her as if she's piggybacking, even though she was. Like, I think she's just a person who just saw like this is my chance, and I'm going to take it. And I think Kurt, wanting to create a better childhood or a better life for himself, like all of a sudden he feels received. Like he's with, you see the videos, the home videos of the two of them together. They really do have a savage love for one another.
He was enamored with her. And if you watch the videos, it looks reciprocated. If you listen to the way the detective talks about her in Soaked in Bleach, it just sounds like she didn't have any respect for him, where she's like, he can't do anything for himself. He can't get a cab for himself. Like he makes her sound like a controlling, manipulative wife. But I know what you mean. The videos the home videos, they look like high young rock stars in love.
Yeah.
He looks enamored with her.
Yeah, she may very well have been controlling, manipulative, but he, I think, was definitely in love with her. His suicide attempt, or what became known as a suicide attempt in Rome, like a month before his actual suicide, evidently came from Courtney either cheating on him or potentially cheating on him.
Right.
And his reaction to that is just champagne and pills.
Right.
Down the hatch. I don't want to think about this anymore, which I kind of like, not to that extreme, but I kind of relate to that. You know, like I've been in stressful situations or I've had bad things happen to me where I'm just like, well, tonight it's going to be the bottle.
Yeah.
like I think we can, you know, we all understand what that feeling is.
Mm-hmm.
But until you're the type of person that's a long-term addict, that's literally like, I'm used to pulling the rug out from under myself. I'm used to plumbing those depths. It doesn't matter to me. I'll go and do it.
So do you have any thoughts? Like, so you watched Soaked in Bleach, where she talks, they say in Soaked in Bleach that first suicide attempt wasn't real, that she kind of made it up. Do you think do you think that detective is lying?
Yeah, I do. I don't take that detective seriously at all. And I mean, and we're getting into conspiracy theory
right.
stuff. Like I'm talking about things that there's no way that I actually know the truth. I'm just telling you the way that it feels in my own head. Right. That documentary is such a film noir with like the fake rain, like falling on all the windows behind all the characters. That's clearly being sprayed out by a garden hose. Like, I don't know who made it, but they made it with Tom Grant, this private detective. So he must have had some kind of level of approval or something like that. It's a private detective fantasy.
Yeah.
Like you watch it, like when he meets
it's
Courtney
watching
Love,
the detectives.
it is. It absolutely is. It's so fucking crazy.
I mean, especially how the girl who's playing Courtney is just so over sexualized in every scene.
Mm-hmm. And he's literally like, I didn't believe a single thing this dizzy dame was saying.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm not buying anything she was selling. She came on to me in her negligee and her panties. Like, it's just like, this is private.
Smoking her cigarettes.
Yeah. And the stuff that he throws out, like he says that some of the things that she told me initially just didn't add up. Like, you're a private detective that she found in the fucking phone book. Her husband is one of the most famous people on the planet. He's a drug addict. He's in danger. She just wants somebody to find him before the press does. Like, of course she's going to lie to you. She doesn't trust you at all.
Yeah.
She just wants somebody to go find her husband.
Yeah.
And then like all the stuff, like, you know, later on where they talk about how did nobody notice that he was, you know, in his own greenhouse when he committed suicide? They're heroin addicts. Like, they're pretty fucked up. Like, you're talking about people in their mid-20s on heroin with millions of dollars. All of their dreams are coming true at the same time that their life is spiraling apart. There's no way you can expect anything to make sense.
Right.
Like early in that documentary, he says, I'm a good private detective because I apply reason and logic to every case that I come across. Well, you're talking to a bunch of junkies.
Yeah.
No reason. There's no logic. There's nothing. Like, of course, a junkie doesn't notice that somebody is upstairs in the second bedroom in the greenhouse. You know, like, it makes perfect sense. The
detective didn't notice it either. He was there too. And he was like, I didn't even see that there was a greenhouse above the garage.
No, it makes perfect sense to me that it makes a lot less sense to me to think that Courtney Love is such a Machiavellian puppet master that she was able to latch onto a guy who was vulnerable and weak enough to be influenced by her, and then ultimately weak enough to be murdered by her. Like, that's some serious long-term planning that I don't look at Courtney Love and go, you're capable of the perfect murder.
Yeah. I wish I had paid more attention back when it happened. Like, cause I just remember this one, like, I think she just went into full junkie mode because, you know, how does a junkie cope with stress on that level? You do a lot more drugs. And I just remember her being like kind of high out of her mind, hanging out with the other people on the property that were mourning him and like just talking to them. And I just remember at the time thinking like, well, that's weird. But I'm also thinking with logic and reason. I'm not thinking in the mind of a heroin junkie.
A heroin junkie whose husband has just committed suicide. Like, it's how do you can't, they say it all the time. Like, you can't second guess how somebody grieves.
Yeah.
Like, it makes sense to me to think that somebody who's just suffered a traumatic loss like that might want to go out and talk to the people who have gathered on her lawn to grieve as well. Like, sure, it looks really funny. Like it doesn't pass the smell test, but there's a lot of other tests other than the smell test.
Yeah.
Anyway, I'm babbling on it.
Well, I thought about this because we're talking about faking deaths, and if you could find out that one of these was true out of like the conspiracy theories of people who fake their own death, out of like Tupac, Elvis, Ken Lay, or Kurt Cobain.
Oh, man.
Or Kurt Cobain, which one would you want to be true the most?
Which one would I want to be true the most? Oh, okay. All right. I want to answer it in a bunch of different ways. I guess off the top of my head, the one that I would want to be true the most would be that Elvis had faked his own death. Okay. I would be very curious to know what Elvis has done with the last 40 years.
Yeah.
Like that would be absolutely, where are you hiding? What are you doing? What bowling alley are you running? I would love to know like which part of America Elvis wanted to like slip back into and be a part of. That would be really fascinating. Which one do I want most to be true? Probably Ken Lay.
Yeah.
Just because, probably because that's the one. Ken Lay, if you're listening, Ken Lay was the head of Enron, and Enron obviously collapsed into bankruptcy because it was built on a totem of lies. He was an incredibly rich man, an incredibly powerful man, and then he died all of a sudden right as he was about to most likely be sent to prison.
Yep.
So that one seems like the most suspicious to me. Like he might have an island somewhere. And if Ken Lay has an island somewhere with all of his powerful connections, I wonder how many other powerful men have sort of just like, well, I've always got Ken Lay's island to retreat to.
Yep.
Is it wrong to think that maybe Jeffrey Epstein is sitting on Ken Lay's island right now?
I think it's extremely logical.
Yeah, I think if you can't get a presidential pardon, you can always go to Ken Lay's island.
Yep.
I don't think it's true at all, but I do entertain that one. We're
getting into a lot of lizard Illuminati. This whole episode is ripe with conspiracies, and I love it.
Straight up conspiracy theory. Yep. Kurt Cobain. It's hard because I'd love to still have him around. I'd love to still think about what kinds of songs he'd written, because I really do think I hate to keep saying crash the plane, but I really do think that's what he was trying to do. And I really wish that we'd seen that arc play out. If he felt he needed to go, then maybe he needed to go. Like I'm a little bit weird when it comes to suicides. Like I've known a couple of people who have taken their own life, and there's part of me that thinks that if that's really what they wanted to do, like if they really looked around their life and they just could not find a way to gather emotional strength to carry on, then maybe it's for the best. Like, right. I don't want to, I know that sounds awful. I know it sounds callous. I know it sounds irresponsible, like if anybody, but I don't think that anybody really, really should do it. But I also, there's another part of my brain that thinks that if you take somebody at their word where they just don't think they can go on, then maybe they can't.
Yeah, it's a tough one because, depression and anxiety and all that stuff can have you tell yourself things about yourself that isn't true, but it doesn't matter. You believe them. And some people can't ever dig out of those holes. And if they never get proper help and therapy, then they know they'll be like this for the rest of their lives and drag everyone down with them. And I think that's what eventually pulls them down. It's hard for me to it's easier for me to believe that he killed himself had he not had kids, but being a parent, that's always a weird one where you're like, no matter how depressed or down I could get, I would always be like, what? But what is Charlie going to think? My son's going to go his whole life now knowing his mom did this. And that's the weird thing of knowing that he had a kid. But I think heroin, we're sitting here talking about this logically and sober. These are not the thoughts you have when you're high on heroin. You're
sober. Speak for yourself.
Well, I'm drinking water because I've gained fucking weight on this quarantine. And I have to slow the sugar rush. So I'm back to delicious quarts of water.
You're trying to slow the booze curve. Suicide is obviously a very, very heavy topic. But I've always, like, if somebody is so down on themselves and so depressed that they feel that they have to take that kind of extreme measure, I always thought it was just exceptionally cruel to turn around and call them a coward for it, or to it's difficult to talk about because I know it's really painful for people who have suicidal thoughts or have had, you know, somebody in their life commit suicide.
Right.
But to me, it's I guess there's part of my brain, and it's just part of my brain, but it's an active and emotional part of my brain that just, when I hear somebody say that either, you know, they took the coward's way out or that was a selfish move, there's part of me that's just like, this person was in an awful lot of pain.
Yeah.
Let him go the way that they wanted to go. Like, you don't need to tarnish them on their way out.
No, I know what you're saying. And there are circumstances. I've known people who have done it too. And I look at their circumstances of why, and I look at the amount of pain that they were in. And I was like, I get it. They knew they were going to wake up with this searing pain for the rest of their lives. And they're like, you know what? I just don't want that. I don't want to live like that. I mean, I get it. I wish, you know, I could be like, well, I'm going to fast forward you through all your years of therapy where you find joy again. And I could hear them being like, yeah, I don't want to do that either. I don't want to feel this pain for years. So as much as, you know, we want those people around and we wish we could have saved them, there is a part of me that always is like, yeah, if I was in your situation, I could see wanting to do it too. Yeah.
When I think back at the two people that I know who committed suicide, I'm just like, just make the call. Like, please just make the call. Like, just pick up the phone and I don't mean to get too pleading and too horrible about it, but it's
hard not to with this song and with this person, this artist. I mean, it's hard not to get into this conversation, but yeah, I mean, Kurt was amazing and he was part of that 27 club, man. What is it about that 27?
Somebody was telling that it's almost kind of like because everybody in the 27 club is on the addiction cycle, is doing drugs. Like it takes some time to work your way up to the point where your body is immune to enough drugs that you can actually conceivably give yourself an overdose. Like when people talk about how like Kurt Cobain had what I think they say, you know, some people say like 5 times, you know,
right.
5 times a lethal dose of heroin. Like, yeah, for a normal person of his height and weight. Right. But he had 5 to 7 years building up an immunity to that sort of thing. Like, right. Like that's how junkies die, is they get clean, you know, for 6 months or 8 months or something like that, and go back to it and they do a big dose. You know, they do the amount that they were doing 8 months ago, and their body can't handle it anymore.
Right.
Like it's gross science, but that's why. I mean, that's the best explanation I have for the 27 Club. It's not any kind of like weird omen or anything. It's not a sign from the great beyond. It's just straight up science. Around the time you're 27, your body starts to break down. You start to get older. You're weaker, and all of the abuse you put it through up to that point, you've weakened it.
Talking about that just made me think of a conversation I had with my son today, where he was saying that he wants to be an inventor, and he wanted to invent a potion that you drank and it kept you the same age for the rest of your life, like a vampire. So I was like, okay, well, what age is the best age for someone to drink this potion? And he, of course, because he's 6, he's like, when you're a kid. And I was like, but hold on, you're not even tall enough to ride a roller coaster. Don't you want to at least ride a roller coaster for the rest of your life? And he's like, oh, I should be older. And so I'm just at this point, I don't care what my son is thinking. I'm really thinking about this. And I was like, is it your teenage years? And I'm like, no, because you're still getting like, zits. And then I was like, what is that age? Like there's a point where you're going up the roller coaster, your body's still growing. And then it stops. And then you start going down on the decline. Like, what is that pivotal age where you're at your best, you're at your ripest, your body hasn't started breaking down yet? Is it like 25? Like, what is it?
When do you want to get bit by a vampire? I would say for, and this is coming entirely from a male point of view, 33, I would think.
Oh, those are my best years. Oh, okay. Yeah. You go ahead and say it. Don't let me forget. Remind me to talk about the banana. Go ahead.
I think at 33, you can like you're old enough, but still young enough to intimidate a 25-year-old vampire.
Okay.
you got 8 years of experience on this thing. You got a little bit of grizzle, but you're not so old that they're going to think that you're weak. Like, they're still going to be looking up to you and saying, "Oh, I don't want to mess with old man over there." 33. Absolutely. Okay. 100% 33.
Okay.
Oh, wait a second. 33 was Jesus' age. I don't know if that was in my head, but it should be noted.
Oh. I turned 33 on 10/10/10, I think. October 10th, 2010, I turned 33. It was like this really crazy, great. I just told everybody my exact age. Anyway, not that I care. So my thing about the banana, I had this theory now that I'm 42 years old and I've seen myself through the years. And I was like, man, I was peak, like happy, healthy, looked great. Skin was good. Hair was shiny, everything at like around 34. And, they said that women reach their sexual peak like at 32 or whatever, but it was all in that area that I was like, yeah, I feel like a teenager and I look better than I ever did. And it was like this really peak. And then, and it just happened to be coincidentals when I got pregnant and had Charlie, but I've seen it with other women too. It's like,
do you think that's a coincidence?
Yeah. Well, because I look so good. He just couldn't help it. Nature. It went downhill sharply after that. And I know people are be like, Dianne, you look fine. I'm like, no, but things started breaking down. The grays come in, like I'm gaining weight and I can't control it anymore. And I was just like, you're like a banana at the ripest. You're so sweet and so great. And then that banana turns black like the next fucking day. And you're like, holy shit. So, like, yeah.
One day you look in the mirror and you're like, oh, time to make banana bread.
Exactly. And you know what? There's nothing wrong with banana bread. It's great. I am now banana bread.
It's delicious. What I've always loved about Nirvana and thinking about Nirvana and talking about Nirvana is like it goes to that like kind of like the heart of the music argument, like what belongs to who. Like from the very get-go with Nirvana, it was always this thing like people wanted to take possession of it. They're my band. Like if you're putting the headphones on or you're blasting it in your bathroom or in your car or something like that, it's you by yourself. And you're having this incredible catharsis. You're getting to these emotional achievements. And then you get out of the car and you realize that Nevermind has sold 1 million albums. So there's 10 million other people out there you don't like and you don't know and you feel distant from that are having that same experience with this music that belongs just to fucking you, damn it.
Right.
Like it's a hard thing to wrestle with. And it's even weirder. Like every time I think about Kurt Cobain, I'm just like, well, he was just on the other side of that emotional equation, right?
Right.
Like he's out there thinking like, why is this selling 10 million albums? I would have been happy with 500,000. This is ridiculous. Like, I don't want these people attaching themselves to this superficially. Like, I only want to talk to the people who I think can hear me.
Right. He's like, I didn't write this for millions of people. I wrote it for a specific section of people. Why are millions liking this?
Yeah. And if you're coming from like an underground scene that other bands have already come, like, you know, he's standing on the shoulders of all these other rock stars who have come before, like the Melvins, the Pixies, and all of those. Mudhoney, like all of those guys are like that's what he wants. Like he wants that level of fame, and he wants to communicate exactly to those people. Like I remember it from my stand-up days where I would go and play these like one-nighters in tough bars in like small Texas towns, and they didn't care at all about what I had to say, and I didn't really honestly care
if they received
it at all. If they liked it at all, like I knew that this wasn't my audience, and it felt like anytime I would do something that wasn't part of my regular act to sort of engage them, I just felt cheap. I felt silly. Like I didn't know how to use my tools. I wasn't a successful stand-up. I wasn't experienced. I didn't know how to do it. I just knew that I didn't want to, whatever message I had or whatever joke I was trying to relay, I didn't want to cheapen it just to succeed with this bar audience with the pool tournament going on in the background. Right. And I wonder if Kurt Cobain kind of felt the same way. Like he's playing to 50,000 people and feeling the same thing that I felt, playing some crappy bar in Lake Jackson.
Well, I think what Kurt just couldn't understand is that he was still being true to himself. And unfortunately, it was great. Like his being true to himself turned into something that connected with a part of people that, maybe he doesn't think the 40-year-old father of 4 living in the suburbs should like his music, but that 40-year-old father of 4 was a teenager once, and maybe it's connecting to his, young teenage angst himself. And Kurt just couldn't see that, where I'm like, Kurt, you were so true to yourself that it resonated with everybody. It was just good.
Yeah. Man, it's bizarre to think that there's got to be guys who are 45, 50 years old, like right now in their garages, jamming Nirvana songs and like having that same emotional climax, that same kind of like brooding thing now, even though they're dealing with problems and emotions that 27-year-old Kurt Cobain couldn't even fathom.
Yeah,
like it's crazy to think that he's still being used. Like he's still the voice of our generation.
Yeah, for sure.
Crazy weird to think of. Dude, this was a weird episode.
It's great. I had this hope, and maybe it'll still happen. So in my research, I saw that I read this on songfacts.com that comedian Bobcat Goldthwait, I never know how to say his name. There's a TH in there that I'm like, how do I say that after a D? Goldthwait?
Goldthwait, yes.
Goldthwait wanted Cobain to do an all apologies video that would have Cobain playing Lee Harvey Oswald in a reenactment of the JFK assassination.
Holy shit, that would have been great.
So Bobcat and Cobain had met and become friends at a radio show in Ann Arbor, Michigan. And Cobain rarely shied away from controversy, but in this case, he even thought the video would be pushing things a little too far. So I text our friend Sally Brooks from the Dumb Love podcast. Everybody remembers them being on our show. Sally is friends with Bobcat. And I was like, Sally, you don't have to ask him if he would come on our show. We're strangers. He wouldn't know us. He probably wouldn't want to do that. But I sent her that little snippet and I was like, can you ask him if this is true? Like, I want to confirm that Bobcat had this idea for All Apologies video. So she hasn't gotten back to me.
I think it is. I think it is 100% true. Like I saw Bobcat doing like a weird stand-up thing where he was on Howard Stern, and apparently Howard Stern was going to make a movie about Sam Kinison. He was like in talks to be the producer of a biopic about Sam Kinison, and Bobcat and Kurt Cobain were kind of friends. I don't want to get this wrong. No, I think after Kurt Cobain had committed suicide, Howard Stern had said something like made like a Howard Stern joke about it, or something that bothered Bobcat because Bobcat was friends with Kurt. And so the next time Bobcat was on Howard Stern's show, he kind of had that axe to grind. And like Howard had asked about Sam Kinison or something, and and Bobcat turned and was like, "Yeah, I heard you're making a movie about his life. So how about this? I got an idea for a scene. How about you're actually eating his dead flesh, and then cash is shooting out of your ass."
That's awesome.
Apparently that was the last time that Bobcat Goldthwait was allowed. That's amazing. If I remember that story right.
Oh, I love it. That's great. Was Howard? Okay, I could see Howard's ego being like, I can't even fucking, like, he couldn't just laugh it off and be like, you're right.
I don't, this is way off on another topic. I don't really know Howard Stern at all. Like I've never listened to a whole episode of his show. Like for as many years, I've never like taken in even one episode of Howard Stern's radio. I've heard like snippets of it. I've seen the jokes. Like in my brain, Howard Stern is only like the shock jock. He's only like, take your top off. Like, that's good, but are you going to take your top off?
Right.
Like I've heard that he's a really thoughtful guy. I've heard that he's an incredible communicator. I've heard that he's on the edge of a lot of great issues, but I've never seen it myself. Like it's every time I hear his name, I'm clueless about that dude.
It's best to hear him on, like, I don't think I'm making this up. I think he was on like Conan's podcast. It's best to hear him on a show that's not his show, and you get a better idea of who he is, or like read his book or something. I don't know, but yeah, there's a little more to him than shock jock.
Courtney Love kind of rather famously always said, and this is just a dumb question, but she always used to say that Kurt Cobain was better looking than Brad Pitt, that her husband was had those matinee idol good looks, and he didn't even know it.
Yeah,
he's certainly good looking. But do you think that like if he cut his hair short and washed and went to the gym a couple of times, do you think he could have been like leading man, movie star handsome?
No, but I think he's equally as handsome in Brad Pitt the way he is. Like he has to have stringy, oily hair and that kind of like doldrums attitude, I guess. But like those blue eyes come out from under that haze of like, I don't give a fuck about you. If you wash him and clean him up and cut his hair, you lose that part of him that's hot. Like it's the whole thing. Yeah.
It all goes away. Like he has to be the lonely kid who learned to play that guitar so well, who learned to write those songs in order for him to become the attractive image that he eventually did.
That being said, Brad Pitt in Interview with the Vampire, fucking dude. There's not much else that's better than that. Because like his eyes weren't gorgeous enough. You got to put fake vampire eyes on top of it. And that long hair, just get the fuck out of here. It's so hot.
Could you imagine being in like the green room or in the trailers on the set of Interview for the Vampire, and there's like Tom Cruise like obviously trying to hold the top spot over the new up and comer? Talk about that's a vampire bite moment right there.
I wonder if they're friends. Like, were they? I wonder if they. Oh, yeah. I wonder if like if Tom Cruise knew in that movie, like, I'm getting smoked by this hottie. This guy's way better than me.
It's straight up, this guy's coming for my crown and he's coming hard.
Yeah.
Look at those abs.
Yeah.
It's a weird way for the Kurt Cobain episode to kind of come to a close.
Yeah, it's all right. Well, I have an extremely funny dressed up like a douche. Okay, you guys, I have been asking you guys over and over and over and over to send me your misheard song lyrics. And then the other day I put it on Facebook, like, cause I was like, do we have to stop doing this segment? I've hit the bottom of the barrel. I don't have any more. And then I asked Facebook, and I don't know why this time it exploded. You guys gave us so much, like I'm not going to have to fish for like another year at least, cause I'm going to do all of them. But the one that the first one that made me, because a lot of them made me laugh, but the first one that made me laugh really hard came from our pal and comedian, Tommy Drake. And I'm going to laugh before I can even say it. So the song Rock and Roll All Night by Kiss. And it's, the line is, I want to rock and roll all night and party every day. He thought they were saying, I want to rock and roll all night and part of every day. Which he says he then thought, what a responsible lyric.
It's a totally reasonable request.
I mean, yeah, if you're going to party all night, you're going to have to sleep off the hangover the next day. So that cuts into part of the day. And then you can start again in the evening. So I guess part of every day.
Fuel up, eat some vegetables, drink some Gatorade. I'm going to need 30 minutes at lunch.
Yeah.
To rock myself out.
Corbin said that's the mullet of rock and roll songs. Business in front, party in the back. So anyway, thank you guys. We have so many songs for our Dressed Up Like a Douche segment now. So I'm really excited about that. Now, Ben, do you have a guilty pleasure song?
Guilty pleasures.
I do. Do you know Howard Jones?
Yes, I do.
Yeah. Howard Jones's Things Can Only Get Better is
That's
absolutely a guilty pleasure song for me. And it's like for all of the, like, and do you feel scared? I
don't. Is it I do or I don't?
No, it's I do. But I won't stop and falter. Like, I feel that way quite a bit of the time. I just need Howard.
I think I like all of his songs. Yeah.
I don't know that, like, I had to look up who did that song. I don't think I know any other Howard Jones songs, or do I?
You might. He's one of those surprising ones. You're like, who sings this? Howard Jones. Oh, who sings this song? Howard Jones. It's one of those. Like, you'll know more than you think if you just go through his discography.
I'll look him up, but he's been on my iPod for years with just that song, and for precisely that reason. Like, if I'm feeling intimidated, if I feel like I will put that in. It's like, it's okay. Howard Jones felt that too. It's gonna be fine.
Is that the
whoa, yeah, and I will dance to it too.
It's great. All right, mine. And I have a story behind this one of why it's so good to me. But mine is, "This is how we do it." Montell Jordan. This is how we do it. Da 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 da. All right. So here's my story. God, Ben, are we ever going to stop talking about karaoke? I can't. So you would think I spent every waking weekend of my life in karaoke clubs, but I didn't. My friend Toby, he's a very good singer. He's a white gay man who's now in his 50s. And he's a very good singer. He was in the gay men's choir, which played at Jones Hall, and these big, so he's very, very good, very strong voice that reaches. So we went to this karaoke club one night, and we get there kind of early in the night. So no one else is in this club when we first get there, except there are these 4 tables, these long tables right up against the stage, full of you can tell it's someone's birthday party. And they're all Black. It's like a whole family and friends. It's someone's birthday. This is their party. And they've obviously been going since the minute the club opened. And we walked in, it was this moment, all the Black dudes are sitting at the table with their elbows on the table, with their head in their hands. Because the way these amazing Black ladies do with their voices, they are all up there singing ballads. So they're probably watching their girls one after one just go up there and Mary J. Blige the shit out of this almost empty club. This was their club. And these women were great, obviously, but you could tell the dudes were bored. And so we show up and we're like, all right, well, we're just going to start putting in songs because, it wasn't just their place. They were just the only ones there. So Toby goes first. And so you just hear, "Welcome to the stage, Toby." And the Black dudes are still just sitting there with their hands on their face. What's this white boy about to do? And then Toby, he doesn't hold back. He can perform. And you just hear, "This is how we do it." And I was standing way in the back. That entire 4 tables of dude just rose in unison with their hands in the air, jumping in there. And they were like, "This is how we do it." I have never seen a gay white man turn on a fucking party that fast in my life. And my jaw was dropped. It was just this snapshot moment of my life. All 4 of those tables were just house party. The girls too. Everybody just went nuts. I don't think they expected such a powerful voice to come out of this white boy. And Toby was in concert. He was singing in their faces. He knew every word. He didn't have to look at the lyric sheet. He just put on a concert for him. And so now every time I hear that song, I just smile because I just remember that moment. It was one of the greatest karaoke moments in history.
Oh.
It was really good.
That's adorable.
I know. Thank you.
It stays with you forever.
Guilty pleasures.
So before I read the business, are we going to tell everybody the exciting guest that we have next week?
We are. Go ahead.
Okay. Oh my God. So we teased this a little bit and didn't even realize we were teasing it. On the Watching the Detectives episode, we talked about Henry Phillips, the wonderful Henry Phillips. The Henry Phillips that makes me laugh in his YouTube videos, his cooking, is it Cooking with Henry or Henry's Kitchen? Henry's Kitchen.
Henry's Kitchen.
Dianne,
Go
get
look
it
up
right.
Henry's Kitchen on YouTube. You'll be happy you did.
It makes me laugh so hard. I cry. I mean, I get stuck in ugly face crying. He makes me laugh so hard. But Henry is a stand-up comic who also plays guitar. And he wrote this song years and years ago called The End of the World, which our very first episode is The End of the World as We Know It. So I'm going to have to make sure I label these correctly. But and it is one of Corbin's favorite songs, and it is a song that makes me howl laughing every time I hear it. So we asked Henry if we could cover that song and if he would come on and be a guest and play it for us and then talk about the process of writing that song. And he said yes, and I'm so excited.
It's going to be great. I'm looking forward to it. It's been so long.
He's got a lot of things going on. He's also on that show Silicon Valley. I'm going to let him talk about all the things that he's into right now. I want him to brag on himself. It's going to be a great episode. It's going to be really funny, and I am super excited about it.
We're going to songwriting school next week.
Oh, and it's comedy songwriting school. You know, we're comedians and we talk about music, and I was like, what took us so long to get to the point of talking about comedian writing a song? What took us so long to get here?
And here we are. We're ready for it.
All right. So special thank you to Chuck Savage and Eddie Hawkins for our amazing intro music, and to Sara Wessling for the Guilty Pleasures vocals. Again, if you would like to support the podcast, you can join our Patreon for $5 a month. Go to patreon.com/rockthecashbar. With that $5, you'll get some cool swag and a chance to vote on every other song that we cover. Like, we'll pick one, you pick one. And again, this song, All Apologies, was voted on by our Patreon. So thank you guys. We have a Spotify playlist of all the songs we cover, including the Guilty Pleasure songs. It's searchable on Spotify, or you can find the direct link on our website, rockthecashbarpodcast.com. Thank you for tuning in. New episodes every Thursday. You can send us a misheard song lyric if you want, but right now I don't need them. I got enough to last us a year, but send them if you want to. Find us on all the social medias. We're easy to find. Thank you guys so much, and we will see you next Thursday.
Aqua Sea Foam Shame. Vogue.